Hi everybody. This week we're going to talk about logistics, all of the work that happens behind the scenes to make our programs perfect. You've heard me say it before, I'll say it again. If the logistics aren't in order, no matter how wonderful the content is, the program won't happen. If vans don't show up, if speakers have the wrong date or are angry because they're not getting paid, if participant per diems aren't processed correctly, things fall apart. So we're going to look at all of the different elements related to logistics to help us anticipate and be able to plan perfect programs. I wanted to start by reviewing the readings because they offer a little bit of difference this week, some really good resources for you. The Spencer and Tuma guide, the first one listed, offers some specific checklists that are really good resources for us as program planners. Every program is different, so some of this might not apply to the programs that you're working on now. But again, the more you have checklists to use as references, the more ingrained the ideas become in your brain as you work over and over time. So that's the first. Finding Your Way, as you know, focuses on international student advising in higher education. But the learning in this reading, and it really is important for everybody to take a look at it, the learning in this chapter is about working with our colleagues in our organizations, on our campuses, in our field. In other words, how do we get other people who are also involved with our programs to buy into our program so that they become advocates for our programs? I'll give you an example. A lot of the work that I've been doing as degree chair involves liaising with our registrar, with our admissions office, with our financial aid office, with the folks in the dining hall regarding meal preparation, all of the other offices on the campus that are involved with your program at one point or another. By having these positive relationships, I'm able to ask for favors for you when necessary, special catering needs, for example. I'm able for get-togethers, things like that. I'm able to beg forgiveness when I screw up because people know that I have a good intention because they've seen me work hard in the past. And most importantly, I'm able just to produce the best programs possible for all of you. Lundy, Carew, and Oakes are looking at logistical elements with respect to food and accommodations specifically. A lot of what international educators are doing when we're actually delivering programs, frankly, is similar to a travel agent at times. We're arranging accommodations, we're thinking about catering, we're talking about group meals versus individual meals. So this reading provides us with some good ideas about those most basic of needs. And lastly, Carl Heron's piece is written specifically about U.S. students traveling abroad. It's part of a guide that is written for international schools outside of the United States that receive U.S. students. The perspective is different, and it's an important one for us to have. In this chapter, Heron is looking specifically at legal issues that affect these programs. So together, I think you'll find the readings interesting, hopefully helpful, and good resources for you again. Speaking of resources, I wanted to follow up by letting you know that after you complete the readings, we're going to work through 2 different resources or become familiar with them as well. The first we've actually started talking about in some of our other discussions online, and that's Mobility International. I did want to point them out again here, as I mentioned a week or two when we were looking at recruitment and marketing. Mobility International is a phenomenal resource because they are never going to say no. They figure out how to make our programs accessible to people with physical and learning challenges, and are accustomed to finding new resources, new ways of making programs happen. Now, this isn't to say that they will always help us find a way to make a specific program accessible to everybody, but what they will do, if that's not possible, is help us find an alternative so that anybody who is interested in international education programs will find a place where they can be successful and where they can learn successfully. The last resource we're going to work with, as usual, it's all of you. The discussion forum for this module is set up in a familiar way, with each of you being asked to take one characteristic of logistics and explore it in detail in your first posting, and then everybody responding to someone else's posting. I think in the module it says each person should respond to one other person's posting. I know by now that won't happen, and of course that's just fine. Respond to whomever you like. Your conversations are so engaging and so informative and exploratory. One thing I want to encourage this time around, even though the majority of you are working with higher education and or study abroad programs, think about your colleagues who are not. Think about the international student advisors in the group. Think about those of you who are working with immigrant populations. Think about those of you who are working with different age groups. And try and expand your reflections and your thoughts to include those groups as well. There is a tendency, because often our higher ed study abroad folks are the majority in our cohorts, there is a tendency for that thread to take over, and it's important that we explore how all of this applies for those students as well. But I want to make sure that we're including everybody in the discussions, and logistics are really important for all of our groups, no matter what age, which direction, where the programs are taking place. So you'll see the forum discussion questions are listed. There happen to be 13, the same number as you, so everybody can take one to begin with, and then we'll dive into the discussion. As always, I look forward to it. I caution you, some of the questions seem very simple at first. We know that there are very few black and whites in international education. So again, I look forward to exploring these content areas with you, and thank you in advance for your engagement. See you, everybody. Bye-bye.